Thank you to Ridge for sponsoring this video. Now, Ridge wallets aren't your usual bulky foldable wallets that tend to take up a lot of space in your pocket. Instead, they're slim, extremely durable, and offer important protection against RFID card skimmers. The wallets are made from materials such as titanium, carbon fiber, and aluminium. I personally went for the sleek aluminium OD green, and Lars got the titanium matte cobalt. As you can see, you can also choose between a cash strap and a money clip, but in our experience both of them work just fine, so it's really up to personal preference. The wallet can hold up to 12 cards. Getting the cards out can take some time to get used to, but honestly, the benefits of its small size, the protection it provides, and its durability have made me stop using my normal wallet altogether. But if you're not convinced, you can also check out over 30,000 customer reviews on their website. Ridge wallets also come with a lifetime warranty, and in case you don't like the wallet at all, you can send it right back within 45 days of your purchase and you'll receive a full refund. So if you want to support the channel, go to ridge.com/storytellers, where you can use the promo code Storytellers to get 10% off your purchase today. Thanks guys. At first glance, the story of the 2008 Disney Pixar film WALL-E, set in a future post-apocalyptic world and featuring a lonely robot's search for love, might give the impression of being a type of kid-friendly Black Mirror episode. Like the dystopian Netflix show, WALL-E puts a central emphasis on humanity's hubristic excesses and the related dangers of our rapidly advancing technology. But whereas Black Mirror's meaning frequently ends there, leaving the audience with a nihilistic view of reality and a message that more often than not seems to come down to technology bad, WALL-E plays out a more symbolically comprehensive, meaningful story about the gradual loss of connection with life, and of an overarching search for reunification through love. In doing so, it playfully showcases both the danger of technology as well as its potential to help bring us back down to earth, reminding us who we are as human beings in the coming together of the masculine and feminine for the renewal of the world. The opening shot of WALL-E shows us the image of a sick and exhausted world, suffocated by an excess of coverings. We learn that in the distant future, humanity has abandoned Earth after an apocalyptic flood, not of natural water, but of man-made objects. In this world, material goods have swallowed up civilization as towers of trash dominate the skyline. We find out how the world was governed not by genuine representatives of the people, but by the CEO of a giant faceless corporation, aptly named By and Large. A company which not only governed the world, but also ruled as a monopoly over the world market. In a sense, the state of things before the Exodus reveals how humanity became possessed by materialism and by an extreme commodification of life, resulting in a superficial collectivized world ruled by a totalizing system of control. And the final vision of the system was to create a consumerist society of ultimate convenience, leisure, and fun, a transhuman world controlled by technology that aimed to permanently revert human life back to the safety and warmth of the womb.
Because at B&L, space is the final frontier!
The spaceship, the Axiom, embodies the manifestation of this vision, and functions, as we shall see in more detail later on, both as a perfect Tower of Babel, as well as an inverted Ark of Noah. But amidst this deserted wasteland, we are also introduced to WALL-E, a robot who, contrary to the humans who left the Earth, was made to stay behind to clean up their mess by neatly organizing their garbage and by putting mixed objects back into their proper categories. It's both in this square appearance as well as in this ordering function that WALL-E embodies the image of symbolic masculinity. We find out that he's a dreamer, fascinated as he is by certain everyday human objects. In a sense, in this masculine spirit, WALL-E is working the ground and attempting to plant his seed. But because the world has seemingly become infertile, he's unable to bring forth a renewal on his own, seemingly doomed to forever produce lifeless cubes of trash. And it's in this insufficiency that WALL-E ultimately and almost instinctively searches for love, dreaming of the reunification of masculine and feminine as the image of the potential for new life. And as we shall see, it's exactly in this coming together of opposites, of masculine and feminine, of spirit and matter, of heaven and earth, that symbolically binds the story together and runs through it like a golden thread. This overarching theme of a renewal of life is then succinctly depicted in WALL-E's discovery of a newly sprouted tree hidden under the waste. This tree will gain great significance shortly after. In the story of Noah's Ark, Noah sends out a white dove to find signs of new life after the flood. And just like in the biblical story, the Axiom similarly dispatches a white reconnaissance robot tasked with bringing home evidence of new plant life on Earth. This advanced robot, appropriately named Eve, takes on the role as the symbolically feminine counterpart to WALL-E's masculinity. Besides her female biblical name and her more rounded appearance, Eve's femininity is depicted in her directive to function as a potential vessel for new life. But as this force of chaotic potential, she also harbors the power for great death and destruction if not guided properly. And so just like WALL-E, she is shown to ultimately be incomplete, frustrated at her inability to fulfill her directive. It is only by bringing these two forces together that the seed for renewal can take root, as WALL-E unwittingly impregnates Eve with the plant. In the following act, WALL-E follows the incubated Eve back to the Axiom, where the same pattern of communion is about to play out on a wider societal scale. We quickly learn that the Axiom is a place of complete purity, order, and control, an ultimate Tower of Babel. Everything in this society is accounted for by this system. Movement happens on set paths, everyone consumes the exact same products, and even the passage of time and the changing of the climate are controlled by the ship's captain. To maintain this level of extreme purity, there is no room for that which doesn't fit and belong in this system. Of course, the supreme irony of the situation becomes quite evident, as humanity's pretensions to godhood have in actuality had the opposite effect. Because even though technology can make us stronger and help us reach unimaginable heights, an excess of technological coverings can also make us weaker and disconnect us from our center. In essence, the Axiom functions not only as a Tower of Babel, but also as an inverted arc, as the ultimate safe space, a transhuman world of complete convenience and leisure, with the goal to revert humanity back to a state of eternal infancy. Instead of standing and walking on firm ground, people float around in permanent seats, their bodies over time having devolved into giant blobs of mass, lacking almost any unique characteristics, as their internal integrity is quite literally dissolving before their eyes. Instead of paying attention to the world around them, they are completely distracted by their screens, trapped in a seemingly never-ending cycle of convenience, entertainment, and other superficial short-term satisfactions. Similarly, the materialist consumerist world they inhabit gives them the illusion of freedom and individuality, but in reality promotes utter conformity to a sterile system. This is not an arc that has saved its best and brightest, and its intent isn't really to return to Earth to go through the hard work to renew the land. No, this is an arc that has willfully gone adrift, moving ever further away from its center, inhabited by a people who may delude themselves to be gods, but who have actually been swallowed up and controlled by their own technology. And so it comes as no surprise then that the Axiom isn't really commanded by a human captain, but rather by the aptly named AI autopilot. In short, this is a society that in its hubris has unwittingly and quite literally made technology its god. The arrival of the foreign contaminant WALL-E on the ship marks the start of a type of revolutionary evangelization of the Axiom, which cleanses it of false gods and gradually realigns it towards its original purpose. WALL-E unknowingly does this by both literally and figuratively touching people, thereby awakening them from their sleep and reminding them of their identity.
John.
This image of rebirth and baptism is made even clearer as John and Mary are shown to be playing in a pool, splashing each other with water, and in the process quite literally shedding themselves from the control of their robot overlords. In a sense, it is WALL-E's and Eve's dance of opposites in their quest to come into final communion, which unwittingly evangelizes the society and inspires them to change their current course. After returning to the captain, Eve, embodying the symbolic feminine, accordingly presents him with the evidence of the creative fertility of the earth. And WALL-E, as the masculine spirit, hands him the manual or the written word to help humanity renew the world. And if the meaning of this event wasn't already clear enough, the captain mistakes the book to be the name of an AI, and subsequently mispronounces its name as he asks it for instructions.
Manuel, relay instructions.
Of course, the captain soon realizes that he actually has to do the work himself. He has to participate at the center of it, starting off by naming and identifying things related to human life on Earth. In doing so, he slowly acknowledges the responsibility we as human beings have as mediators of our world.
We have to go back.
And just as WALL-E begins the cleansing of the temple at the top of the Axioms hierarchy, so too does he lift up members of the lowest rungs of the society, as he unwittingly frees a number of idiosyncratic robots who no longer fit within the system of complete order and purity. And after initiating this revolution, WALL-E is branded a criminal by the autopilot system, which has begun to realize the threat to its authority.
Rogue robots.
The captain on his part realizes that he has never truly been in control of his ship, as Otto strikes down his authority and reveals the true purpose of the Axiom, which is not to return to Earth, but rather to keep the people of this inverted arc asleep, drifting ever further into the void of space. Functioning as an arc, the Axiom can be seen as a symbolic mirror image of the Church, as an inwardly focused center fortifying its congregation from the chaos of the outside, but also as a place from which its followers move outward into the wider world to renew the Earth. Like Noah, the captain steers his ship or his church in accordance with the Word of God.
On the Axiom, you will survive.
I don't want to survive! I want to live!
Of course, in WALL-E, the captain finds out that the Axiom has unwittingly bowed down to the false god of technology, and in recognizing this painful truth, he decides to rebel by attempting to wake his passengers up and help WALL-E and Eve in their mission to return the ship to Earth. And so at first we saw the planting of the seed by the masculine in the feminine play out on an individual level, now we see it play out again on a societal level as WALL-E inserts the plant into the center of the ship. For this mission to succeed, the newly awoken passengers have to proactively work together to survive and to aid WALL-E and Eve in their directive. This decisive move out of a drifting sleep and into a grounded, centered identity is then shown in a comical sequence alluding to Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, as the captain retakes control and responsibility over his life as he learns to walk like a human being, on his own 2 feet. This final letting go of overdependence on technology effectively breaks the authority of the false god Otto and leads the people of the Axiom into the embrace and worship of Emmanuel. And just like in the story of Christ, it is through his self-sacrifice out of love for his bride that WALL-E saves humanity from itself, allowing them to return to Earth to recolonize the land. And so one last time the pattern is repeated in the planting of the seed of new life on Earth as the Ark opens its doors and its reborn passengers walk out to renew the world. This ultimate communion is crystallized in the resurrection of the martyred WALL-E and his subsequent unification through his marriage with Eve. For it is love that started this journey, and it's love that ultimately renews the Earth and reunifies humanity in multiplicity. In the words of American writer Rod Dreher, where humanity got into trouble was allowing technology to exacerbate its own internal disorder, to alienate people from their labor, from each other, and ultimately from themselves. The film is wise enough to know that we can't go back to a pre-technology state, so it says the best thing to do is to put technology in its proper place, which we can only do when our souls and communities are rightly ordered. But you have to question the prime directive. That is, you have to become conscious of how the way you're living is destroying your body and killing your soul, and choose to resist. WALL-E contends that real life is hard, real life is struggle, and that we live most meaningfully not by avoiding pain and struggle, but by engaging it creatively, and sharing that struggle in community. It argues that rampant consumerism, technopoly, and the exaltation of comfort is causing us to weaken our souls and bodies, and sell out our birthright of political freedom. Nobody is doing this to us, we're doing it to ourselves. In the final analysis, WALL-E isn't just another dystopian story with little more to offer than a simplistic and often nihilistic view of reality. Rather, it's a story which offers a more comprehensive contemplation of our modern age, of the great potential and the danger of our technology, and of our place and purpose in the world as human beings. To paraphrase C.S. Lewis, the fundamental question ought not to be how we as human beings can conform reality to our own desires and ambitions, but rather how we can conform our souls to the world around us, and thus be truly drawn into life.